Those of you who have followed, in particular, my real-world automotive shenanigans here on the channel will know that I have a huge amount of love for the Volkswagen Touareg V10. It was my first car, in fact, and what a car it is. It's an incredible SUV with, I would argue, one of the most unique performance engines ever developed. The 5-litre twin-turbo V10 diesel, putting out, at the time, a far more impressive 310 horsepower and 553 pound-feet of torque. Now, these days, that doesn't sound like as much, but around 2003, 2004, that was kind of a big deal, and it's still a fantastic SUV. I would actually argue that that V10 is the second most exotic diesel engine ever put into production, second only to Audi's V12 in the Q7, which I'm also a huge fan of. However, as fantastic as that engine is in an SUV, it's not necessarily an obvious choice for a speed record. Or at least that's what you'd think, because these guys thought differently. Now, even though I've put Volkswagen in the title, because that is where this vehicle's heart comes from, this vehicle wasn't actually built by Volkswagen. It was developed by A&G Auto Works of California and the Adler's brothers Landspeed company. Now, they campaigned for this vehicle and its development for around 6 years, and in September of 2017, it was finally built and completed and ran at the Bonneville Salt Flats, and completed, in fact, 2 world records in one weekend. Now, when it comes to fast diesels, unfortunately, there's really one vehicle that takes all the praise, and that's the JCB Diesel Max, being the fastest overall diesel. This one, though, is kind of a big deal as well, not only because of how fast it is, but because of how it achieved it. Because as you've probably surmised, this is indeed powered by a Touareg V10 engine, but this is a 147,000-mile Touareg engine that they put into this thing. It's not some brand new straight-off-the-shelf engine. It has been heavily used on the street in some random Touareg that was someone's daily driver. And in fact, the engine block still has the original factory seal, which hasn't been broken. They did not work on the engine block itself for this run. It also has the stock 6-speed auto transmission straight out of a Touareg as well, made by Aisin. Now, they did modify the engine, don't get me wrong, they just didn't modify the block itself. What they did do, however, is fit it with some race fuel injectors, which give you a over 160% increase in fuel flow, which of course is kind of important for a speed run. They fitted it with new turbos. Obviously, the standard engine is already twin-turbo from Garrett, but they replaced that with Borg-Warner K16s and a high-performance intercooler as well. And the brand which most people would probably assume built this vehicle, as it's written down the side, Kurma TDI, they actually came in to develop the ECU side of things. So basically it was their job to make sure that the development, the build and the tuning all came together in a usable, workable way that wouldn't blow itself up. Now, Kurma TDI, for those who aren't familiar, are a tuning company in particular for, as the name suggests, Volkswagen TDIs. So meshing all of these parts, brands, companies together could have the potential to be brilliant. And kind of spoiler alert, because I already spoiled it, it was brilliant. In fact, in September of 2017, it did multiple runs on a weekend and set 2 records. The fastest Volkswagen in the world and the fastest under 5-litre diesel, with an overall record of 237 miles an hour. Now, I'm not exactly sure what kind of power this engine is putting out. You may be able to find that information out online. So if the project does fascinate you, by all means do some extracurricular research of your own as well. That's kind of the point of many of these episodes, to ignite your curiosity. But one of the interesting things about the project is that Kurma TDI said that the exhaust temperature never exceeded 1400 degrees, and that they were only running 24 psi of boost, which for an engine like that is fairly conservative. So in other words, whatever the power that they were running, and whatever the torque, it was nowhere near what it could have been. So if they were to turn it up to 11, in the case of this vehicle, it could run quicker. Now, their next goal, and this was as far back as 2017, was to beat the overall diesel record. But in order to do that, they need another 82 miles an hour. Now, I haven't researched what further development has been done after this project, because this is in particular focusing on this time period for this vehicle, but of course, with my love for the Touareg, I would love it if the fastest diesel in the world had a Touareg V10 engine. Either way, though, it already has those 2 records under its belt, and this is one of those episodes which isn't technically a car, but I believe it's definitely an unsung hero because, if nothing else, of the reason that I mentioned earlier on. When it comes to fast diesels, road legal or otherwise, the JCB Diesel Max gets all of the praise and all of the attention. This one, I believe, deserves a lot more, especially because of how it sourced its engine and the condition that that engine was in. Just a relatively normal Touareg engine that had been heavily used and then reworked for this use. They didn't do a rebuild, they didn't, even change cylinder head gaskets or anything like that. It was, for all intents and purposes, a tuned-up production engine. And to me, that's just phenomenal, especially with that kind of performance. So overall, that's it for this episode. It's a little bit of a briefer one than usual, but there's really no real need to stretch out the episode longer than it needs to be. So overall, give me your thoughts on this vehicle. Do you think it's as badass as I do? And of course, if you're new to Unsung Heroes, there are hundreds more episodes already on the channel and hundreds more still to come. And if you want to vote on this vehicle as being one of your favorites, you can jump over to the Discord chat for this channel, and we have a full list of all of the episodes where you can vote on your favorite ones. But until next time, I'll see you then, and for now, as always, thanks for watching.